Do you think you know what's waiting for you when you die? I thought I did, until I stopped breathing and found out the truth about something I never thought mattered: my piercings. And what I saw, it broke me. It still breaks me every single day. But let me start from the beginning. My name's Rachel. I'm 29 years old. I live in a small apartment just outside Detroit. Before this happened, I worked at a nail salon during the week and bartended on weekends. People who knew me would tell you I was bold, outspoken, and stubborn. I wasn't the church type. I'd say I believed in God, but I never really cared enough to find out what that meant. I had a few piercings, ears, nose, and one on my eyebrow. To me, they were just me, my style. I thought nothing of them. My mom used to say, "Rachel, you've changed." But I'd just laugh and tell her she was being dramatic. Truth is, she wasn't wrong. I'd gotten colder, quick to judge people, quick to gossip, quick to get angry. And if I'm being honest, I had a way of making jokes about God, about the Bible, like it was just some silly old book. It started about 3 weeks before I died. I can't explain it, but there was this heavy feeling in my chest. Not pain, just heaviness. Like I was dragging my soul through mud. I'd be sitting at work, filing someone's nails, and suddenly I'd feel like crying for no reason. At night, I started having these strange dreams. In one of them, I was walking down a long hallway. Every door I opened led to another hallway. No windows, no exit. I never told anyone about the dreams. During the day, I'd shake it off. But when I was alone, my heart would race. Something was coming, and I didn't know it, but it was coming fast. It was a Friday night. I had just finished my shift at the bar. A friend of mine was having a birthday party, and, of course, there was drinking, loud music, laughter, everyone just letting loose. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding a drink, when suddenly the room started spinning. My hands went numb first, then my legs. I could hear my friend laughing about something across the room, but her voice sounded like it was underwater. Someone said, "Rachel, you okay?" I tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come out. I dropped the glass. It shattered. The last thing I saw was my best friend running toward me, screaming my name. Then nothing. Silence. But not the kind of silence you get in an empty room. This silence had weight. It pressed in on me. When my eyes opened, I was standing, but not on the kitchen floor. I looked down and saw my body lying there. People were all around me, panicking. Someone was on the phone with 911. Another person was shaking me, yelling, "Don't do this!" But their voices were far away, like a movie playing in the next room. I wanted to tell them I was fine, that I could hear them. But then I felt it. Something was pulling me. At first, it was gentle, like a soft current in water. But then it got stronger and stronger. And no matter how much I tried to resist, my feet lifted from the ground. I was leaving that room, leaving my body, and I didn't know it yet, but I was heading somewhere I was never meant to see. But where I landed next, I still wish I could erase it from my mind. The pull got stronger. It wasn't like floating anymore. It was like being yanked by something I couldn't see. The air around me got colder. Not like winter cold, but a cold that felt alive. The kind that crawls under your skin and stays there. At first, I thought I was moving through a tunnel, but then I realized there were no walls, just black. I looked down. I couldn't see my feet. I couldn't see anything. And yet, I knew I was going down. The deeper I went, the thicker the air became. It was almost hard to breathe. Every breath felt like inhaling smoke, even though there was no fire. Then, I started hearing them. At first, it was whispers. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew they were about me, mocking me, laughing. The whispers turned to wails, screams, hundreds of voices, maybe thousands. And somewhere far off, I could hear chains dragging across the ground. The sound made my stomach twist. I wanted to close my ears, but I couldn't. When my feet touched something solid, I realized it wasn't ground, it was more like rock. jagged, sharp rock that tore into me when I moved. I blinked, trying to see in the darkness, and shapes began to form. There were people, if you could call them that. Some were crouched in corners, shaking. Others were screaming into nothing. Their skin looked pale, almost gray, and their eyes were hollow. One of them looked straight at me, and I swear, it felt like they were staring straight into my soul. And then, the smell hit me. It was like rotting meat mixed with something burnt. The kind of smell that makes you want to vomit instantly. I covered my face, but it didn't help. The smell wasn't just in the air, it was in me. Suddenly, something brushed against my arm. I turned, and there was this tall, dark figure, standing inches from me. I couldn't make out a face, just darkness where a face should be. It leaned close, and in a voice that was more like a hiss, it said, "You thought God didn't care, didn't you? You thought you could live however you wanted." I stepped back, shaking my head. No. But deep down, I knew it was right. Memory started flooding my mind. Every cruel word I'd ever said, every person I'd gossiped about, every time I'd laughed at someone's pain. And then, my piercings. I don't know how, but I could feel them like they were glowing hot. The figure pointed at me and whispered, "You marked yourself. You said, 'This is mine,' but you were never yours." My chest tightened. Tears filled my eyes. I suddenly remembered moments when people had tried to talk to me about God, and how I'd rolled my eyes or made a joke. Here, there were no jokes, only truth. And the truth was, I was not ready for eternity. I fell to my knees. My voice cracked as I screamed, "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't know." The figure didn't move. Around me, the screams of others got louder. Some were shouting for water. Some were calling out names that no one answered to. I kept crying, my hands shaking uncontrollably. For what felt like hours, I begged. But no one came. And then, in the distance, I saw something. A light? It was small at first, like the size of a candle flame. But the moment I saw it, the darkness around me seemed to freeze. Even the whispers stopped. The light grew brighter, and with it came a voice. Not loud, not angry, but heavy. So heavy that it went straight through me. "Rachel." It wasn't just saying my name. It was knowing me. Every part of me. The darkness behind me hissed, but it couldn't move closer to the light. I looked up, and there he was. Jesus. But this wasn't the soft, smiling Jesus I'd seen in pictures. His eyes. Oh God, his eyes. They weren't full of anger, they were full of sorrow. Like he'd been watching me my whole life, waiting for me to listen, and I never did. He looked at me and said, "You weren't ready." That was it. 3 words. But they hit harder than anything I'd ever heard in my life. And then he showed me why. And what I saw, I can't stop crying about it even now. When he said, "You weren't ready," my heart sank so deep, I thought it would never rise again. He didn't yell. He didn't point a finger. But his voice, it was like it carried every tear I'd ever caused, every moment I'd wasted. I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. He stepped closer. The light around him burned, but it didn't hurt. It was the kind of light that made you want to hide because you couldn't pretend anymore. "Lord, I didn't know," I whispered. His eyes searched mine. And then he said something I will never forget. "Rachel, you knew. You just didn't care." Those words, they tore me open. Suddenly, the darkness behind me pulled back even further, and a scene appeared in front of us like a movie playing in the air. I saw myself at 16, sitting in my bedroom. My cousin had just told me she'd found faith in Jesus, and she begged me to go to church with her. I laughed in her face, told her church was for weak people. The scene shifted. I was 21, sitting at a coffee shop. A man at the next table felt led to give me a small Bible. I took it, then threw it in the trash when he left. Another shift. I was 25, looking in the mirror, putting in my new eyebrow piercing. Jesus paused the moment. I could feel his sorrow, like a weight pressing into my chest. "This isn't about metal in your skin," he said. It's about ownership. Every choice you made was a declaration of who you belong to. You marked yourself as your own when you were mine. My knees buckled. I fell to the ground. Tears hit the floor beneath me. I realized then, the piercings weren't the sin by themselves, but they were part of a life that said, God, you don't get to tell me who I am. And that life had led me here. The life review went on. I saw every lie, every cruel laugh, every time I'd ignored the quiet pull in my heart. And I saw the people I'd hurt, really saw them. Their faces, their tears, the way my words had cut into them. The weight of it crushed me. I couldn't breathe. I cried out, please, I'm sorry, I'll change, I'll do anything. Jesus didn't smile. He didn't pat me on the shoulder. He simply said, Rachel, eternity is not a game. I thought that was it, that I was going to stay there forever. But then the light around him grew so bright, I had to close my eyes. I felt his presence move closer. I'm sending you back, not because you deserve it, but because of mercy. You will warn them. I didn't understand. Warn who? I asked. His answer was soft, but it shook me more than the darkness ever could. Everyone who still thinks they have time. Before I could say another word, I felt a pull not down this time, but up. It was so fast, like being yanked through a wind tunnel. The voices and screams faded. The darkness disappeared. Then I gasped. Air hit my lungs like fire. My eyes flew open. I was staring at a bright hospital light above me. Nurses were shouting. One of them yelled, She's back! We've got her! My chest felt like it was being crushed, and tears rolled down my face before I even knew why. I was back, but I wasn't the same. But coming back, that was the hardest part, because I couldn't escape what I'd seen and I couldn't unhear his words. The first thing I noticed after waking up was the sound of the heart monitor beeping. But it wasn't comforting. Every beep felt like it was counting down the seconds I had left on Earth. I turned my head slightly and saw my mom in the corner of the room, her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. When she saw my eyes open, she rushed to me whispering, Rachel, oh thank God. I wanted to tell her I was fine, but I wasn't. Not even close. For the first 2 days in that hospital bed, I barely spoke. I cried a lot. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. I heard those words, you knew, you just didn't care. Food had no taste. Time felt strange, like it was fragile, slipping through my hands. The sound of people laughing in the hallway would make me flinch. It reminded me of how easily I used to laugh at things that didn't matter. I couldn't watch TV, listen to music, or scroll on my phone without feeling sick inside. At night, I'd wake up shaking, my hospital gown soaked in sweat. I'd reach for the call button just to hear someone's voice, because the silence reminded me too much of that darkness. No one believed the full story when I told them. Some smiled politely, some looked at me like I'd lost my mind. But I didn't care. I knew what I'd seen. The doctor said I had gone into sudden cardiac arrest. One nurse told me flat out, you were gone for over 5 minutes. We almost called it. They ran test after test scans, blood work, even a brain MRI. Physically, they said my heart had been damaged by whatever caused the arrest. I'd need medication, maybe for life. But there was something else, something they couldn't measure. One doctor leaned over my bed and said, Rachel, you look different, like something happened to you. I just nodded. It did. The truth was my body felt weaker than ever, but my soul felt raw, exposed. Every beep of that heart monitor was a reminder. I'd been given a second chance, and I didn't know how long it would last. The changes started the moment I was discharged. First thing I went home, found every bottle of alcohol I had, and poured them down the sink. I took out my piercings, not because I thought God hated metal, but because I didn't want anything in my life that had ever been part of my rebellion. I deleted music playlists that glorified everything I used to chase. I started reading the Bible slowly, like each word might vanish if I didn't hold on to it. The verses didn't just feel like stories anymore, they felt like lifelines. I began calling people I'd hurt, Some didn't answer. Some hung up. But for the ones who did, I said 3 words I'd never said enough. I am sorry. Every time I said it, I felt lighter. I started telling my story to anyone who would listen. Not to scare them, but to warn them. Because I knew the truth now. You can live a normal life and still be completely unprepared for eternity. I even caught myself looking at strangers differently, wondering, if they died tonight, where would they go? Would they be ready? The things I used to care about, likes on social media, expensive shoes, the latest gossip meant nothing now. Every morning I woke up with the same thought, I shouldn't be alive, but I am. And that means I have work to do. And that's when I remembered he hadn't just sent me back to change my life. He sent me back with a message for everyone. It was my 3rd night back home when the dream came. I was standing in an open field. It was quiet, not scary, just still. And then I heard his voice again. Not loud, not booming, but deep enough to make the ground under my feet hum. Rachel, remind them. My chest tightened. Remind them of what, Lord? His answer was clear, like it was being written inside my mind as he spoke it. Time is short. Many think they're ready, but they're not. I am coming soon. Tell them to stop wasting their lives. Tell them to forgive. 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 When I woke up, I was shaking. My pillow was wet with tears. I knew then that this wasn't just about me. This was about everyone who still thought they had tomorrow guaranteed. If you're listening to me right now, I'm asking you no. I'm begging you stop for a moment and think about your life. If you died tonight, would you be ready? Not ready in the I go to church sometimes way. Not ready in the I believe there's a God way. I mean ready in your soul, clean, forgiven. Think about the grudges you're holding, the lies you've told yourself, the people you've hurt. Think about the nights you've heard that small voice telling you to stop and you've ignored it. Please, don't play with eternity. It's not worth it. Forgive the person who hurt you, even if they never say sorry. Let go of the pride that's keeping you from telling the truth. Fall to your knees, even if you've never prayed before, and just say, God, I need you. Please save me. I'm telling you, there's no shame in crying out. The only shame is waiting until it's too late. I shouldn't be here. If I had stayed in that place, I would never have seen my mom's face again. I would never have had the chance to say I'm sorry. But I am here. And I am telling you this because I don't want you to ever see what I saw. Please, don't wait like I did. Because you don't get to choose the moment your time runs out. Voice softens to a whisper. Make peace with God while you still can. Do you believe I saw the real afterlife? Or do you think it was just a dream? Tell me in the comments, because either way, you have to decide what you believe about where you're going.